Hey everybody, and welcome to the first video on CADing in robotics. So CADing is computer-aided design, and it's a tool for us in robotics to design our robots ahead of time so that we can make sure all our pieces fit together really well. We can design some 3D pieces to fit in with our existing kind of metal pieces. We can design custom parts. It's used in a lot of different ways in our advanced robotics classes just to make sure that we're not just kind of blindly building our pieces, because we really don't want to waste the time of trying to see how everything's going to fit together, just kind of putting parts. We really want to plan this ahead of time. If you get good at CAD, you can plan your robot much more quickly than you could ever actually build it. And so it actually takes some time to get started, but once you get good at it, it actually makes the whole process quicker because you can fully plan out your robot ahead of time in virtual space, and then you can go ahead and build it. We use OnShape for our CAD software. Another option for CAD software that we frequently use, again, is Fusion 360. We find that OnShape works a little bit better for robotics for a couple reasons. Importing parts into OnShape is much easier. Collaborating is a little bit easier in OnShape, and just tends to work out a little bit better for us. So let's get into it. So what we're going to do for this first series of videos is we are going to kind of redesign or rebuild our chassis, like the base of our robot, in OnShape. So we're going to kind of go through the building process again, but this time virtually, importing some parts, putting some parts together, using some fastens, and all sorts of stuff to just kind of get this started. So let's see, we're going to start with, we have our chassis builds here. We have the two instructions. So basically, I want you to rebuild the chassis that you've already built, but this time, in CAD. So you either have a V2 or you have a V3 robot. You can tell which robot is which depending on like the size of the wheels. Is probably the easiest way to check. If they're the big kind of stubby, blocky looking wheels, that's probably a V2. If you have the slimmer, taller, nicer, I think, looking wheels, that's a V3. So you need to make sure you know which kit you have in order to know what robot you should be building. Let's see, I'm going to start with a V2 demo. So we can just open this up and get all of our, this is the robot that we're going to build. And we're basically just going to go through these steps one more time, but this time, again, in OnShape. So let's see, we have the robots that we build are all from OnShape, or excuse me, all from GoBuilda. So GoBuilda is the company that kind of designs, engineers all these parts and manufactures them. So if you look at around our robotics lab and you see metal pieces, those are going to be nearly, I would say 100% of the time, they're going to be GoBuilda parts. Okay, so this is the library that we're going to be working with. The GoBuilda looks something like this. So this is the GoBuilda website, and they have just like tons and tons and tons of parts. So these are all like the different pieces that they have. If you go into any one piece that you want to find, like let's do like a U channel, and let's look at a 10-hole U channel, we can actually download these parts. We can download the 3-dimensional file from GoBuilda directly and import it into OnShape. However, OnShape actually already has an existing kind of library of all the parts that exist out there. Somebody else has kind of compiled like a resource of all these different parts, and then we can just use that to import things into our design. So, okay, let's see. I think without going too much further, let's get into OnShape. So I'm going to go into OnShape. This should be the home screen that if you create an account, we should have this thing going on here. So let's see, we are going to do a couple things in here. Let's see, I think we covered all that part. Okay, so let's go in, we're going to create a new document. It's going to be called V3 chassis. Okay, and so this is our main screen for CADing. So in OnShape, everything is done in the browser. So there's no extra thing you can download, just everything's in the browser, which, is good and bad, but makes collaboration much easier. But anyways, so this is our design space. I think I really want to point out here, there are two major things that again, I think this is kind of like a different thing than the orientation of Fusion 360, in that we focus on two different kind of elements. We either look at a singular part or we look at an assembly. So the part studio is a place where you can build individual pieces. So it kind of makes a lot of sense for a robot. Like you might want to build under like an intake for your robot. You might want to build just a small one single part for your intake. We can design that in the part studio, kind of in its own little separate space. And then we have the assembly where we can put these parts together and kind of fix everything all together. So these two different tabs that we can really access, assemblies and part studio. For right now, we are not going to be designing our own parts, so we're just going to be assembling existing parts. So we're going to open up assembly. Okay, let's see how we do on time. Perfect. So there are there's going to be two ways to import parts into OnShape. We can either, like I said, well, actually, I guess technically there's three ways. One way is we could just download the individual parts. I need a 10-hole U channel. Okay, let me download the step file, and then I can import it into OnShape. Kind of tedious because you have to do each one. I do actually have a collection of parts in here. So these are actually the second option is I do have here. I just have all of the V2 parts are right here. So that's slightly easier than downloading a single part and making you search for each individual part and download it, import it. But even easier is you may have access to, oh, and I'll do this one. Let's see, where do we at? Did I close anything? Okay. You may have access to a library of parts. So we're going to check this by going to Insert, and then instead of Current Document, we're going to look at Other Documents. And you may have access to this thing called FTC Robotics Parts Users. This is a collection. This is the easiest of the three options. So just downloading in part by part or downloading my collection of parts. You can actually import parts directly from this website. So it kind of depends on, however, this, I wouldn't say it's a website, it's a kind of collection of pieces, a library. Someone else maintains this. So in order for us to get access to these parts, we need to request access from them and then they give it to us. So it's not something that I have control over that I can like give you access to this. So you might not have access. I've requested access for everybody, but if you don't have access right now, we'll have to do it a different way. Let me show you this way and show you why it's so great. And then we'll talk about, I'll make a second video for those of you who don't have access to this yet. So for those of you who do have access, I am going to, let's go back to our build and we're going to say, let's see, the very first thing we need to do is we need to start with a 10-hole U channel. We have 2 U blocks, yeah. Oh, this is 9-hole, excuse me, this is a 9-hole U channel for V2. So let's go into here and we're going to say, let's double check. Yeah, okay, I just want to double check. I know that, yeah, they talk about 7-hole in there, but it is actually a 9-hole U channel. That's what we need to work with. All right, so we want to import a 9-hole U channel to get started with. So in this parts library, we can say 9-hole U channel. We can just search for this. Actually, I'm going to open up this. I'm going to say 9-hole U channel. It'll pull up a bunch of things. If you don't know this for searching, if you put quotations around it, it will search a little more directly for something that says literally 9 with like 9-hole right next to it. And so we're going to get 2 of these things in here. Excuse me, we're going to import one of these. I think these are all roughly the same. They might be slightly different versions. I think for our purposes, it's not really going to matter as long as they're kind of this shape. I'm not sure if there's any real difference in these documents. Again, somebody else is maintaining this. So I'm going to click on one of these. I can click on the part and then I can hit check. And now we have this part into our studio. Okay, and we can now start attaching things to this. Okay, so for those of you who have access to this, so you can go to Insert, you can go to Other Documents, FTC Robotics Parts Users. If you can access that, great. You're going to skip on to the third video. We're going to start doing some faceting. For those of you who don't have access to it, not yet, and you will have access to it soon, I'm going to show you the alternative way in this second video. So stay tuned for those of you who need that. Move on to the second video. If you do have access to this thing, move on to the third video.